Just like with everything else, anything that we do has results and implications. And by choosing to be a workaholic, there are things that are going to happen because of that. So, we're going to have a conversation today around workaholism, the damage it may have caused, and more on episode 849 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Bob?
I'm good. A little trepidation around this topic, but that's okay. We'll get through.
We'll find a way through it, I guess.
That's it. What choice do I have?
You could leave, I guess.
Okay. See. No, I'm here.
Okay. Appreciate that.
I remember being the one who suggested this topic at one point.
You did.
Funny how that thought then and now are different. But go ahead. We're good.
All right. Well, hopefully everyone else is excited to be here, even though Bob is a little trepidatious. Quite the word. First thing in the morning. So we welcome you to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each week, Bob and I have a conversation around a topic, and this has been an interesting week, talking around workaholism. Today, we're going to discuss the damage caused. If you haven't heard our episodes, there have been some interesting conversations as well as some appreciative comments. So thanks everyone who has participated to this point. And I think this will be an interesting conversation around what is sort of the results, the outcomes of being a workaholic. And as we go through that conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments, so we know it'll add value and offer a perspective that we might not have considered, which might be exactly the perspective someone else needs. And at the conclusion of that conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you if you happen to be frustrated, confused, everything just seems like chaos, and you'd rather have a different pathway. Hopefully this will be the one thing that'll help you figure out how to take that next step. And of course, if you have a one thing, please feel free to share that as well. Because what you say might have been said to someone a number of times, yet they never really heard it. And the opportunity is there for you to share at your value so that they can truly hear it and then figure out what they're going to do next. So please feel free to share your thoughts, ideas, and comments. Prior to diving into that conversation, though, each morning, Bob and I do our celebration. So, Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating that I was out early this morning at the penthouse and I went out and ran an errand and came back, and one of my neighbors who goes to church early every day was there, and I saw in her hand, she held the door for me. I saw in her hand she had some cookies. I said, "Oh, it's early for cookies." And she said, "Would you like one?" And I said I couldn't. And she said, "Please take 2 cookies." And so my new neighbor, I don't even know her name. I know she told me, but I've met so many different people, but she gave me 2 cookies and said, "I just love how excited you are about the 2 cookies this morning." And I was truly excited about the cookies.
What kind?
They look like oatmeal raisin. I haven't eaten them yet. I'm going to get through a program, and I promised myself I wouldn't eat them until I finish eating some oatmeal, something healthy before I dig into cookies.
Aren't you going to eat oatmeal cookies?
Oatmeal, then cookies, yes.
But aren't the cookies oatmeal? Raisin, isn't that what you said?
They are, yes.
So isn't that eating the same thing?
So I have a little routine each day.
Okay.
Got to have my oatmeal with my pumpkin seeds and my apple or my raspberries if I'm in a good mood. It's just the way I start my...
Only raspberries if you're in a good mood?
It's a economic decision often. It's now, if they're like 3 packs for $10, I will buy 3 packs. If they're the regular price, raspberries get expensive. So in that case, I will find the apples and get whichever apples are the least expensive.
Okay.
And I've been
So
doing
do
this
the
for,
raspberries put you in a different mood, or
I love raspberries a lot,
okay?
very much. So it's a weighing thing. So if I'm having a good week financially, raspberries might be it. Or if I'm having a bad week financially and I need a pick me up, I might buy raspberries.
What if you're just having a week?
In the perfect world, every week would have raspberries.
Okay.
And we're coming up on blueberry season, which I like. That's a nice change of pace for my oatmeal. And then peach season is really a treat. I like peaches on my oatmeal.
More than raspberries?
Yes, because it's a very brief window. I mean, you're talking 4, maybe 5 weeks in the Baltimore area where you can get good peaches.
So is the order peaches, raspberries, blueberries, apples?
Yes.
Look what we discovered about Bob today. He has a priority list.
And then there are subsets of apples. Because there are lots of, well,
I don't know that we have time to go into all the different apples and ranking Bob's preferences on apples. I mean, we could. That could be a whole
about
show,
causing
I guess.
damage. And if the National Apple Lobby would like to sponsor our program, I'd be happy to talk about each apple every morning. And I'd even eat apple on my oatmeal and show it every morning. Look, here's a lovely jazz apple. Here's a lovely crispin. Here's a lovely, what's the other one that I really like? Not Cara, that's the orange.
Macintosh?
Not a Macintosh guy.
Gala?
Yes.
All right, everyone. More than you ever wanted to know about Bob's breakfast habits.
There you go. And sometimes if they're 2 for 1, I will buy the big box of Entenmann chocolate covered donuts. But only if
so
they're
you
2
won't
for
eat
1.
a cookie before you have, but you may potentially have a donut with your oatmeal.
I'm out of donuts. I ate the last donut yesterday. Very sad.
So Entenmann's could sponsor us as well.
They could. Their chocolate covered donuts are a treat to me. And when they're 2 for 1, it's like $5 for 16 donuts. Not that I've priced them out, but you can freeze a box of them, and you can eat a box of them. And I've been known to do that. Freeze them and then thaw them and then eat the other box one at a time. So it's 16 days of joy. Actually, if I'm being honest, it's more like 14 days of joy, because there are about 4 days in those 2 weeks where I will break down and eat a second donut.
Okay.
And now my mouth is watering.
Look at what you talked yourself into.
So that's my breakfast. What's your breakfast habit, Tom?
I think we're out of time to go into that.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. So what do you have? Oh, the cookies was your celebration, man.
Yes, my cookies are a celebration.
What's going on in the oatmeal today?
It'll be the last of the jazz apples and the last of the pumpkin seeds. I need to get some more salted pumpkin seeds. Haven't been to a grocery store. I needed to go to the grocery store on Saturday, and I put it off. And I'm literally, there's very little food left here. I'm out of the pasta. I'm out of the black beans. I'm out of the rice. I mean, all those things that even the stovetop stuffing that I rarely eat, it's gone.
Fair enough.
Yes. But so the grocery store is in my future, either today or tomorrow.
Fair enough. All right. Excellent.
So much information.
Yes. Excellent. So my celebration today is that the summer club lacrosse season starts tomorrow, at least for me.
Oh boy.
So my weekends will be pretty busy for the next, I don't know, however many weeks, probably until August. 4th of July weekend night. The weekend before that is clear, which is good. You need that. You need a little respite from all of it. And yet I'm also excited. It's a great group of people that I get to work with, and it's good to be outside and get to run around a little bit. And so I'm excited about that as well.
That's great. And I think it's great that kids have that recreational outlet.
Yes.
And lacrosse.
Not great that the parents have that outlet sometimes.
But it is great that girls are learning about lacrosse at an early age.
I would agree.
It's a really great sport. It was not a sport I was introduced to, even though I grew up at one of the high schools that is like the mecca of lacrosse, but I managed to never touch a lacrosse stick till I was in college.
It happens. It happens.
So,
It's okay.
And anytime the kids are out, that's a good thing. Outside doing something other than video games. And I don't think there's a lacrosse video game yet.
Not that I'm aware of.
There's my idea of the day. Someone run with that baby.
There you might want to find one of those companies and be like, hey, here's sport video game you could add. Nobody's got it yet. We'll see. All right. So we dive into our. Oh, wait.
No, I was going to say I'm ready to dive into the topic, I think.
Do you want to kick us off?
I will. I've gone this far this week. I might as well just go all out.
Okay.
I have caused a great deal of damage in my life and to the people around me because of my workaholism. That's the long and the short of it. It's created great opportunities for me, but I think they came at a cost. I think there were times that I put my work ahead of my personal life. It's funny how life works in interesting ways. I've had to, in the last year, adjust to a relationship where that person puts their work ahead of relationships, rightfully so. I'm not complaining. I understand, it makes sense, but I now see what that looks like from the perspective of the person having it happen to them. And that's been an eye-opening experience for me that I never realized when I was doing it. And it's one thing if you go, hey, yeah, I know the party's Friday night. I have to work late because we're doing this special project. It's another thing when you say, yeah, I know this is 18th party I've missed, but I really think I should stay at work, even though you don't have a need to. And I think I'm guilty of that at times. Like we talked about yesterday and earlier in the week, I used it to hide from some things. And I think I got a good deal of my approval from my work, not other places. And I think that's the shift that's happened to me. If I'm really looking back at it, and I say this with a lot of embarrassment, really. I wish I could go back to 24-year-old Bob and tell him, hey, dude, you know what? Work's just part of your life. It's not your life. And I can remember times in my career where work was the most important thing. It was the only thing that mattered to me. Climb.
Would 24-year-old Bob have listened?
No, probably not. I don't know. And there's that, but you look back. I mean, I can specifically think of situations where I made choices like I could list 10 times probably where I can remember one year we were supposed to go on vacation and I was working on a story for a newspaper late at night the day before we were going away. The only one who imposed that deadline was me. And then we had to drive up to Boston, I think it was, the next day. And I was just a wreck. I was exhausted. I was worn out from a long work day and I just wasn't my best self. And I think that's the effect. And I never had children. I don't know how you people with children do this. I don't know how you work hard, do your job, and then you go home and you do your other job, which is a really important job of being a parent. I never had that constraint in one way and that great situation in another. Because I think what I see with a lot of people is there is a line that's drawn between work and their personal life when they have children. Sometimes, yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's all, I don't know. I guess is damage caused, considering that, just a judgment on a decision that you made.
Right.
Or is it, is that something that is just a result of choices made that, when made, we had no idea what the outcome was going to be. We thought that was the choice we could make for a whole host of reasons that we probably aren't considering today. Sometimes people work late because they feel like this is the opportunity for them to get ahead, or there's been some pressure on them and they feel like they're behind. And, trying to balance that with all the other things going on around them, it's hard to make those decisions. I mean, in some ways you make them, and some might consider that you make them lightly. Although I think oftentimes those decisions are challenging decisions, and we just, for whatever reason, choose to work more. And I think that the challenge with that is when we're not sharing our why around why that's the case. And some of it goes back to communication, right? Is the damage caused because there weren't conversations around, this is the way I'm feeling around work, or on the outside influences that I feel like I'm damaging. And so we just don't understand why we do what we do. One of the things that I do with, when I do a presentation with nonprofit professionals, usually around fundraising, I ask them to think about what's the most impactful story they have around their work, and which usually causes a lot of emotion in the room. And then I ask them, how often do they share that story? And most times they don't share it very often. And almost even, more impactful is they don't share it with the people that they care about. As I say, do you go home and tell the people you care about that this story, and that this is why you do the work you do, and this is sometimes why you have to work late? No, it might not be that impactful on the people you tell, or it might be an opportunity to have some understanding for them to share their impact, and that maybe if we considered what that impact was differently, we would have a different understanding of where it's at. And so I think that a lot of this is I think it's part of judgment, looking back, thinking we should have done, could have done, might have done something different that would have changed our results, maybe. And they may have also changed your results in other ways. You could have put off that article and been stressed all vacation about finishing the article.
Or not gotten the promotion or the raise or whatever.
Yeah. Or then you were rushed because you put it off. So I think that just like anything, every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And it's easy to look back and judge and say, well, if I had only done this, things would have been different. Well, we don't know that. And I think that that's one of the challenges we have in when we think about judging things, rather than just trying to be like, oh, I did what I did, and there were results. How do I now think about differently what I will do next?
Jackie's with us this morning. Good morning, Jack. Sometimes we work late on weekends because we feel we weren't productive or we're busy with personal issues during the work hours. Absolutely. There's a time shifting, as I like to think about it, which I think time shifting is great. I use it a lot, but I think there are also times in the past where I've used time shifting to avoid family engagements and other things I just didn't want to do, even chores around the house sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not alone.
No. Well, of course, there are a lot of reasons why we choose to work more, whatever that may be. I think one of the reasons that you might consider damage caused is because we don't share why that is. And if we had shared it, there might be other damage caused, and there might also be understanding that, oh, okay. And then you could have the conversation around, well, this is the 18th time that you've done this, and you may or may not have even realized that. You might just be subconsciously avoiding that, and that may help you choose differently in the future.
I think that's my one thing, is to have the discussions around it, believe it or not to just, as I look back, I don't think I had a discussion around it ever. It was just like, work, I got to work. I don't think I would have heard a discussion. And I'm not saying, don't picture me in my entire career working 150 hours of the 169 hours a week. I probably didn't exceed 147 any week. But there were definitely times where I was just, I got to work. And it was the hardest thing, I think, for the people around me was that it wasn't finite. At some of the jobs, it would be I'd work weekends, or when I was teaching college, I'd be grading papers all weekend because they had to be graded. And it wasn't like, I think it's different when you go, okay, I know every third week you're going to travel and you're going to be out of town because you have to go to the office in Poughkeepsie or wherever. My schedule was never like that. So it was more sporadic. And I've seen couples where the person has to travel somewhere for a week every month, and they just, okay, this is the week they're away for the month. They schedule around that, and it's part of how it works out. And I'm sure in your career, there were times when you were traveling.
A lot.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot easier in some ways than just, hey, I'm sorry, it's Tuesday night, I need to stay at work. You take care of all the other responsibilities. I think I lost you. You froze on me again, Tom. Yeah, you're totally frozen and I can't hear you. I will tell you, folks, Tom and I had a discussion about computers, and I think he might actually be dealing with a computer issue maybe next week. Michael's with us. Thank you, Michael. Good to see you or hear you or read you, I guess. Michael, the difficult part is that when you enjoy what you do, it's hard to disengage. Only later do you realize the mistake. I am absolutely with you. It's so easy to look back and see it. And Michael adds this. I'm sure Tom will see it later. Tom, at least you had a nice smile with those eyes closed. And now Tom has fully left us. So, folks, I'm going to get Tom to fix that computer if it's the last thing I do. And at the rate I'm going, it may very well be the last thing I do. You heard my one thing, which is to have those discussions with the people around you regarding your work. I like Tom's idea that we share the why something's so important. I need to stay late for this reason, or I need to get up early to do this for that reason, and not just assume that people understand it. And I think there was certainly a lot of logic in my career where I understood the logic of my actions, or I thought I did. And I think Tom's idea that we share the why with people is really a good one. Hey, you're back with us, Tom.
Yes. Hold on. There you go. I know how uncomfortable that makes you feel to be on the other side.
We may have to change the introduction to, and now Bob Graham and maybe Tom Brush.
Possible.
Or sporadically Tom Brush.
Occasionally.
Or if the winds are blowing in the right direction at the right time, Tom Brush will be with us.
Maybe. I did see and hear your reading Michael's comment. And I think, and it is hard sometimes to disengage, because when you like what you do, you that's okay. That's great. And he says, only later do you realize the mistake. And I guess I
knew you were going to jump on that one word. I saw it.
Because I think that's the judgment side of it, and I think that's the hardest part about it, is it's always easy to look back. And you could say, if you were the person who worked 9 to 5, you showed up at the office at 8:58, and by 4:58, you were packed and ready to go out the door. And still have some of those challenges, and you look back and say, I wish I had put in an extra hour. I wish I had, when offered this other opportunity, I had considered it. Because we can only make the decision we make, and at some point you just have to make a decision and then live with what it is, and hopefully you learn from it, so that maybe next time you contemplate, what does that look like? And I think sometimes we don't get all the information with a new role or a new job that makes it difficult to even know what the expectations are. And because of that, or what the opportunities are, and this is what it would take to have those opportunities, so that we can make the decisions that we make with a little more information, and rather than feel like, okay, this is where I'm at. The expectation is, you know what, if you want to get ahead, you've got to work 50 hours a week, and probably you're going to have to do some on the outside, and you might be like, okay, I understand that. Now I need to share that with anyone who might be wondering why I'm working late. Or you could say, you know what, I appreciate that. This is not the place for me. And then we can choose it based on, and all we can do is based on what we know or what others have shared with us, that we have to then try to see how that impacts what's real for us. And I think that one of the most challenging things, this might be my one thing, is the judgment we place over the things that we've done. And sure, we could have acted differently, except we likely didn't know what we know now then. And I think as we sort of talked around earlier, even if someone had told me that back then, I might not have believed it. I said, well, it's just one thing. And if I miss this one thing, is that truly going to have this much of an impact? It's hard to tell. We can't see the future. It's easy to look back because we've seen that. And I think the easy thing to do is then judge and then decide, wow, if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have had this damage or this situation that I believe is damage caused by that one event, and likely isn't necessarily just caused by one thing.
And it also works the other way. I know someone who took 7 years away from their career to raise their children and came back to their career, and people that person worked for at the beginning of their career are now retiring, and that person's got 6 or 7 years more of work. And so it's, that those commitments at both ends can have effects.
Sure.
And sometimes we know what they are and sometimes we don't. And I think so often we do things with good intentions and don't understand the repercussions until later, both positive and negative, because I know in many regards my career took off in places because of my workaholism. I can think of 3 or 4 situations where I wouldn't have been at the table I was at doing the things I was doing were it not for the fact that I was the guy that did this. So it's a double-edged sword.
Well, it's just a sword. Right? I mean, because you don't know. The only way you judge it based on the results that you can't control, that you don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
You could be a workaholic and not have ever advanced, even though you thought that was the way to go, and now be looking back and be like, well, why did I do that? Or you could say, the only reason I advanced was because I put in those extra hours and was seen as that person. How do you know that in the moment? And so whether it's good intentions or bad intentions, they're just intentions. You have intentions around this is why you're choosing to do it. And you do something and then you get a result. It's not a good result or a bad result, it's just a result. And then you figure out what do you do with what you've learned from that result.
Okay. If you're a workaholic, hey, you're in good company. I see Jack's got a comment. I agree, Tom. We sometimes work late because we're negatively judging what we did during the day and feel the need to correct it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you are a workaholic, hey, here's your opportunity. Tom and I would love to talk to you. Either of us, both of us. Might be some ways we can help you move past it and look at what you're doing and what's important to you and what really is serving you. Because sometimes, as I heard yesterday, it's really hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. Think about that for a second. And really true. We're all in the jar of our work. We're all in the jar of our lives. And I think when you have an outside person that can offer you a different perspective, it can really enhance what you're trying to do. It can really clarify some things. It can really give you a sense of, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. And I can tell you, Tom does that with me almost every morning before, during, and after the show. And it has made a profound effect on my life in ways that I don't think I even begin to imagine. But there are times where I'll say some innocuous comment to Tom and he knows me and he'll say, whoa, hang on a second. That's a judgment, or that's this. And it really does help me accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. If that's something you're trying to do, if you're in a place where you're like, I've tried so many things and it just doesn't seem like it's right, or I'm a workaholic and I really want to understand that better, we would love to talk to you. We have a program that can help you figure that out, help you find your pathway forward. It's called
Sculpt Your Business from Chaos and Confusion to Confidence and Control.
Thank you. We got to find shorter names. There's so many words to that. Sculpt your business from chaos and confusion to confidence and control. And those aren't just words. We really are helping people accomplish those things. And frankly, Tom and I are helping each other accomplish those things. I think there's certainly days where I felt like chaos and confusion reign, and a nice 20-minute or 45-minute discussion with Tom. And before you know it, I've got confidence and control, at least for the next 12 minutes until the next thing comes up. And I think others, I'm making light of it, but it really does make a difference. So if that's something you're really thinking about, this whole week of talking about workaholism has really resonated with you and you've started to think about it, we'd love to talk to you. You can track us down on any social media. You can find us at renegadesuccessnetwork.com. And you're really industrious, you'll figure out a way to track us down. I think you could even find our cell phone numbers if you looked hard enough.
Possible.
There you go.
Yes, I would agree. And it's interesting, I was thinking about this, I think there are also people who, as Michael said, they enjoy what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, part of that is you shouldn't. It's unfortunate when people feel guilty about doing something they love to do. And I think part of that is then understanding what does that mean for all the other options. Like, it's a choice. You can choose that you love doing what you do, and the moment you are going to, that's the way you're going to be. I think one of the things is always evaluating how that changes. Do you still enjoy it? Do you still enjoy the work? Are there other things coming into your life that are having an impact on that? And how do you figure out how to confidently have the control that you want over whether it's enjoying the workaholism or feeling like now it is restricting you from where it is? Because I feel like, correct me if you think I'm incorrect, we've talked about workaholism as only kind of a negative thing, even though I don't like using that word, quote unquote negative thing, where there might be, people might look at it as value, and it has added value to where they are and put them in position to do some other things. And I think it's a matter of sort of understanding kind of why you're in this mode, why you feel like this has value, and ensuring that you are considering all perspectives, which is very hard to do when you're in the middle of it, of why you might think it has significant value and it might not have the value you think it does. Again, expectation about the results that you're going to get from any action typically are, if I do this, I'm going to get this. Maybe not. And I think that that's a very hard conversation to have with yourself, to truly understand where you're at, why you're there, and what might be some of the impact that you're not seeing as a part of it. So,
an action-packed week, to say the least.
Absolutely. And so if you happen to be listening to the podcast, we know that unfortunately there's no place to share your thoughts and ideas. So we would encourage you to join us in our Sculpt Your Business Facebook group, where you can share those thoughts and ideas. And you might find a thought or idea that helps you figure out how to have less chaos in your work, be less confused, and find a way to confidently take that next step, whatever it might be, that helps you move forward to achieve the success that you desire. So we look forward to seeing you inside of that group. If not, we'll see you Monday morning, 7 a.m.-ish Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote.
Hey, workaholic or not, embrace the renegading you. As you go into this beautiful Friday and this marvelous weekend, be that renegade. You will thank yourself Monday morning.
Look at all those adjectives you used. All right, everyone, go out and enjoy the day. We'll see you soon.